Hey guys, it's Julia. So today I wanted to share with you some just phenomenal news that I just received, and it has something to do with this property. We got about, let's see, 17 by like 40 or 50 feet. It's a plot between two buildings. It's one of my landlord's properties. So here's the backstory. I have an awesome landlord, and I've been asking him, can I garden on the roof? And he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, because I just have a driveway. There's no land at all. That's about it. And I've been to his house, and he does a little bit of gardening, but he has a concrete pad for a backyard, so he does planting in pots. And for years, Aaron and I have been just dreaming and preparing for a farm, right? Or at least a garden of substantial size. The one that he has is about, a perimeter of a 15 by 20 property. And we take full advantage of it. We use it to the max. We grow everything we possibly can in every square inch. So, if you're faithful what you've been given, and you utilize it and you're a good steward of it, and this journey has taken a long time. I remember being here in this city about 15 years ago, and just this is a little bit of an emotional story, and I was sharing it with Aaron last night, and I was just bawling my eyes out because just seeing things come back around. I would be walking down the main street in this town, late at night, because when I was a student, sometimes I'd miss the last bus from the college, and I'd have to walk downtown to my apartment. And I'd just be walking down, and I'd be praying over the neighborhood. It's not the best neighborhood. There's a lot of crime. It's a poor income community, and I just be walking down the street and just praying for people, praying for different blocks, different houses, specifically different neighborhoods, as I'm walking down, and it just floors me how faithful God is. And now, 15 years down the road, I have opportunity to use this property. Now, it might not seem huge, but it's more than anything we've had. It's about maybe 17 by 50, something like that. And it hasn't been, there's no grass, there's no pesticides. This has been vacant, and nothing's been built on it. No one goes back here in, 15 years. There's no pesticides here. That's just the most amazing thing, right? So for us to be able to grow food, and get the community involved, and maybe have a little teaching session. My landlord is eager to learn. He is so eager to learn. He is so aware of our economy and the rising food prices, and that is partially why I started this YouTube channel, is just to teach people who are completely beginners the beauty and the satisfaction of gardening, planting something that a lot of times you can buy at the grocery store, but you don't know the process behind it. And just having more of a appreciation for food and a love for raw ingredients, for something healthy. You can make different sauces, without preservatives, and learning to can and preserve your own food. And just the beauty of having all these things accessible to you, and having the option of doing something with them, and being in control, and having the power to say what you choose in your life, rather than going to a grocery store and picking out what is offered to you. So I am just beside myself. I was just bawling my eyes out last night at this gift. So he has several different properties, and yesterday, out of the blue, because every day I keep telling Aaron, I'm like, when can we move to Tennessee? When can we move to Tennessee? Like, we've been saving up, and not just financially, but a lot of seeds and a lot of knowledge, just constantly learning new techniques, new methods, new ways of gardening, just following and just learning and absorbing, just like being a sponge and just learning everything that I possibly can about gardening. And Aaron is very supportive. So, and he hears this longing in my heart for gardening and just knowing where food comes from and just the nutrition of food, right? Of things that are not full of preservatives and pesticides and GMO foods, right? That you can just buy at the grocery store. And then consuming these for years and years and decades. And then a lot of times, people get heart disease and people get cancers, and it doesn't just happen overnight, right? It happens because of our life choices day by day, right? What we put in our bodies, how we treat our bodies. So just being more conscious of that. And it's coming to a point where it's all I think about, right? I wake up, I start watering plants. I read magazines. I watch YouTube channels and get inspired and just, gosh. So yesterday we were, for the last couple of months, we've been contacting and reaching out to a community garden organization. So they buy up or they lease out properties, vacant properties with some land, and they turn them into community gardens. And last year when I called for a plot that was close to us, it was $30, but they didn't have a spot at the end of the season. So we passed up on it. This year we called and it's $75. And the plot is about 6 feet by maybe 15, 20 feet. That's the size of the garden that I currently have. And for me to pay $75, and it does have water access, the whole yard is fenced in, so it is, secure somewhat from animals at least. But $75 for that size plot, I can't grow that much food on that to be worth $75 for all the effort of driving there and going out of my way slightly. It's not on my property. So we $75 per person, and Aaron wanted his own plot if they had one, so that would be $150 for 2 6x15 plots. That's relatively expensive. So I'm like, let me just call my landlord, because I know he has a lot of properties. He has land with the properties. This is between the two buildings. So let me just call him. What can happen? He knows I have a passion for this. I know he is eager to at least learn how to plant, so that if anything happens in our society, that he has something to fall back on, at least the knowledge. So I gave him a call, and he's like, yeah, sure, meet me, in the property in 45 minutes. And oh my gosh, so we went to see one, and it didn't have a water source, and half the property was a concrete pad from a previous warehouse that was there, and they took down. And then he took us here, and it is about noon right now, and half of it is in the shade, half of it is sunny, but we'll make it work. It's more than any of us have before. So I am just thrilled. I'm going to put a time lapse on a little later, and the guys are gonna come and dig post holes on that end. That's the shorter end. We're gonna put a fence up there, and over here we have a little chain link fence. And I was thinking of putting morning glories over here along the fence to make it beautiful for the folks on the sidewalk passing by. Plant some like marigolds at the bottom, put sunflowers up, bring a lot of pollinating flowers, and then just make for efficiency, for to make this cost effective for us, he's not even charging us anything for this because he wants to use this himself as well. And our agreement is to do this together. It's a joint effort to teach him and learn along together. He's providing the land for us. So what we're thinking of doing is just making mounds. We're gonna make probably 4 or 5 long rows like this, and start a little compost heap with all this greenery. There's really hardly any grass. This looks like dandelions, but there's no dandelions, so I'm not sure what this is. The leaves look like dandelion leaves, but there's no flower heads. And then not quite sure what this is. It looks like I don't know. So anyways, we brought a lot of shovels and post hole diggers, and we're gonna put it on a time lapse and see the transformation. I am just floored. I am so thankful. This is like a dream come true, guys. This is more of an experiment. We're going to learn from this, just take you guys on a ride, just see the transformation, and throughout the year, throughout the summer, learn techniques, learn how to irrigate. We're thinking of, like I said, for financial reasons, not sure if we can afford to build raised beds. We wanted to make a wicking bed. Basically, you make a box and then you line the box with a really heavy duty vinyl, and then put like gravel, maybe halfway, say, however tall your bed is. And the idea is you put the gravel down, and then you put a like a weed what do you call it? Weed cloth sheet, and then you put the dirt on top. That way it keeps the dirt from going down into the gravel. And then you fill it with your topsoil and dirt. And then you drill a hole in your raised bed. You gently pull the plastic through, and then you pull out maybe like 4 or 5 inches, 6 inches, gently tug it out, and snip the end of it, and make your hole about at the level of the gravel. And the idea is when you fill your bed with water, it's going to fill up to the level of the gravel, and then anything over the level of the gravel is going to come out the hole and spill out. That way you know that there's enough water in your bed. And because it's hot and water steam rises, it will naturally keep the dirt moist. It's basically watering from the bottom up. You don't want to a lot of times water your tomatoes and any plants really from the top, because it creates an opportunity for mold and mildew to develop, and you can get leaf rot, you can get bugs, a lot of damage to your sunspots from water. If the leaves don't have enough time to dry, you can get burned leaves from the water on a sunny day. So the best and most economical way is to make something called a wicking bed. And just a fascinating process. There, large nurseries do this. It saves time and money because the water has nowhere to go but to the dirt. It doesn't seep down further into the ground, and it just waters all your roots. So that's what we were thinking, but it might be a little, this is a long property, we want to make 4 or 5 rows here. I don't know if we can afford to make that many raised beds with that much plastic, but it would definitely save on the water bill. And the amount of times we have to come out here and water. We do have a pretty crammed schedule. I do marketing in New York City most of the week, so I'll be out of the city here working somewhere else. And Aaron will come by obviously and water things, or the landlord is here half the week, so he doesn't mind watering. But to save on everybody's effort, it would make most sense to make this properly from the beginning in order to invest in this whole system, because it will definitely pay off over the long haul, right? And we wanna, our hope isn't to stay here for much longer, maybe another year, maybe even halfway through the summer, maybe into the fall we're gonna be moving. So the idea is to bless someone else with something beautiful, something that they can continue and set them up for success as well. And in the meantime, it's a learning process for Aaron and I and my landlord. So everybody's benefiting from this, but the whole idea is, do we, what we're wrestling with is, do we just dig in, make mounds, and plant my 200 plants because they're overgrowing my kitchen, or do we wait another week or so and build the raised beds and make it proper and make sure that it's set up all the way so that it will make it a successful season for us, right? All right, so the guys are gonna come back. I am going to be unpacking my car. I have a lot of like shovels and building materials, and let's see, I'll show you guys. Whoops. So we got hoses, we got buckets, level for the fence, concrete mixer, some posts. So I got a lot of work to do. We got pots of dirt and different shovels. So this is gonna be exciting. I'm gonna put it on a time lapse, and we'll take it from there. And the guys should be back with the concrete and a whole bunch of other things. So just taking you guys on a ride, and hope you enjoy the journey as much as we are, guys. We're learning so much. This just came out of nowhere. So, all right, I'll hang in there. So Aaron and my landlord went to go get some more supplies, and this is Mike.
Hi everybody!
So what are you doing today, Mike? What are you guys up to?
We're going to put a couple posts in for Aaron, and he's going to put a fence up.
For a fence, yeah, we got about old pieces of fencing, about what, that's like 12, 14 feet I think this span is.
Yep.
So
we're used for a 4-foot gate.
4-foot gate, yep. So yeah, we're just digging post holes, and then you guys are gonna fill it with the concrete.
That's correct.
Yeah, and we're just trying to use the old pieces that we have around the property, trying to make it economical. Use what we have, instead of going out and buying more stuff. Nice. How deep should that be usually?
You wanted to go 15 on everything, but the posts are short, so I don't know how you're going to do this, but want to put 2x4 follow up, so
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that'll work. Yeah.
We did something similar at his property, and basically just added 2x4s on top and just reinforced it along the way
Sure.
really well.
Yeah.
Shored it up. Yep.
It's only,
really
it's only
sturdy.
a little fence. It ain't nothing crazy.
Yeah.
It'll work.
Yeah. Better than what was here. Nothing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
this is mostly, it's a semi-fenced-in yard on that end, but I think nobody really locks the door. But this would be just for the garden area. Yeah. 8 foot, yeah, and a 4 foot gate. That's awesome. Yeah, get a wheelbarrow through here. They'll be.
It's actually got to go a little bit more, so I gotta dig out on the outside a little bit. Nothing crazy.
Nice. Yeah, so I'll put it again on a time lapse, and we'll see how the fence comes along, and I'll have a second one going. I'm gonna clear out some of these weeds and probably do like 4 or 5 different rows. There's another one of these around the side of the house, and it's going to bloom, so we'll see. I just don't want it spreading, so I'll probably cut these down as well. I don't know what this is called. It's got little tiny buds so far, but it's I think it's pretty deep as far as the root goes. So we'll get rid of that. Anything that can start to spread. All right, I'll keep you guys in the loop. So we got straight down to business and started picking up the trash. I filled up about a 5-gallon bucket full of loose garbage that was flying around the property before I even started weeding. So then I spent the next several hours just weeding all the dandelions out, and the other broadleaf weed that was there is actually yellow dock. And the taproot on that was, some of the plants had about 2 or 3 inches around, so it took me a while. I didn't dig it all the way up. I just chopped it off like an inch or 2 down at the base of the plant. Hopefully it won't come back because it's not producing photosynthesis. Then I started making my rows. I put buckets on either end of the row just to kind of help me eyeball making straight rows. And I would just dig from each side. There was a lot of grass, a lot of violets as well. So it definitely took a lot to kind of manually sort the dirt with my hands and kind of work through the dirt and find all the roots for all the weeds. And my pile on the corner there is getting really big. The neighbor came out, said hi, and he's liking what we're doing out here. The weeds have gotten as high as the fence in previous years, they said, so they're happy we're here. And then my back started to get really sore by this point. I did 3 rows so far, and I'll continue on to a 4th row, but I took a lot of stretch breaks and a lot of sitting, a lot of stretching. There was a lot of grass, so trying to get all the weeds and the roots up took quite a while, and as you see, we've been there like 6-7 hours by this point, and I'm starting my 4th row, and I'm going to do 1 more row behind me. That area is going to be completely in the shade all the time, so I'll put some shade-loving plants on that side. Alrighty, so I have 4 rows made so far. I'm going to dig holes about 18 inches apart on those mounds and then amend those holes with this potting mix. When we came on the property, they had about 8 of these 3-gallon buckets, and they're all filled with really good potting mix. So I'm just gonna give a scoop or 2 into each of the holes before I plant my peppers. That way they'll have a little better start. So each of the mounds are about 2.5–3 feet wide, and I decided to go with making a little trench on the top of the mound and then filling the whole trench with the potting soil instead of just making holes 18 inches apart. I ended up fixing up and tidying up the rows and the pathway between the mounds, still pulling out a lot of weeds and tossing them to the side. Found some trash and glass and garbage in there as well. But basically making a trench at the top of the mound with my little shovel, and then I would come back and loosen up the soil that was in those buckets and just pour it out on the mounds. And it ended up being 3-4 inches of potting mix basically on top in those trenches, so it's a good substantial amount for the seedlings to grow in. And then started to get a little dark. We were here again for several hours this next day, and I'm still pulling out a lot of weeds and kind of piling them up, tidying up the rows, and it started to get really dark. The street light comes on, and Aaron's in the background pouring the foundation for the fence, fence that's going to be at the end. And then I poured out the rest on the 4th row of the potting soil. This is what it looked like when we started. Had 4 rows. I'm going to make 1 more row at the end there on the left, and then after I put the potting soil on the top. And that's what we're able to accomplish in the new garden over the last 2 days in our work parties so far. Aaron is still working up at the front of the yard, putting in the concrete foundation for the fence. We're just waiting for the concrete to cure before we put the fence up. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys for taking the time to come along with us on this new adventure that we're on. It just means so much to us as we share this journey with you. This is a small step towards our dream of owning our own farm one day, hopefully, and just helping people along the journey as we attain that. If gardening has been something that's been on your heart for a long time, and maybe you're just in an urban setting like I am. I live in a row house and I don't have any property, and maybe you don't have that resource, namely land, then be encouraged. Just get out there and let your desires be made known to others. Go out there and talk to everyone. Join different gardening communities. Like I joined a orchid society, and the knowledge that I gained from them is applicable to many types of gardening. Join Facebook communities. There's an awesome group called Seed Savers Exchange, and for the cost of a postage stamp, you can exchange seeds with people all across the country. And they actually do produce their own, they package their own seeds as well. So join different communities. Your town library might have a seed library that's free to use. You might have a community garden spot that you could use for the season as well. That could be for a small fee. We have one, but it was a little more expensive than we wanted to pay. Also, if you have farmers markets, get to know your growers and producers, develop those genuine relationships with them, and get to know them. See if maybe you can even volunteer your time with them, and that way you could really get the down low scoop on what it's like to actually farm and have a garden and do agriculture on maybe even a large scale. And that way you could get the, like I said, the down low version of all that, instead of the edited, romantic, picturesque version that sometimes we content producers put out on YouTube even. And it all really depends on how intensive you want to do this and how intensively you want to go through with this. It's could be a very, very immensely intensive lifestyle, but at the same time, it's very rewarding. So all that to say is exhaust your resources and let other people know you have a desire to garden. And it doesn't have to be food and vegetables. It can be beautiful flowers or anything like pollinating flowers for the bees. And, you know, we have urban sprawl everywhere, and we have less and less greenery. So maybe you want to help the bees out a little bit. So talk to everyone you know, and like in my case, you know, I talked to my landlord, and I was gardening on the roof, and he's like, hey, yeah, let's, he brought me to 3 properties, in fact, and we were able to find one that worked for us. So see how you can join forces, collaborate with your neighbors. Maybe they have a large lawn, and you can section off a little plot for a garden, and that way they have a little less mowing to do, right? So just exhaust your resources, just let other people know what your desire is. And the funny thing is, they will hold you accountable, because they're gonna ask, hey, so what happened with that whole gardening thing you were doing? And that will keep you on your toes. So just stay encouraged, keep knocking, and doors will open up for you guys, all right? So we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.